Welcome back to the Banderpod, the present and productive podcast of Bandersnatch Books. We're a small press publisher of treasures found off the beaten path for lovers of all that is good, true, and beautiful. I'm Rachel Donahue, and today I get to chat with my friend, fellow writer, game maker, and instigator of creative community, Andy Patton. Andy is the director of content for The Rabbit Room, and he is one of the most highly productive people I know. But Andy also has a knack for engaging people with unhurried presence. If you know Andy, you've no doubt wondered how he does all the things. Well, today we're going to find out. Andy Patton, welcome to the Banderpod.
Thank you, Rachel. It's good to be here.
Yeah, glad to have a conversation about all these fun things. So before we dive into productivity and how to do all the things, why don't you tell people what kind of creative work you do?
Let's see. Right now, my current projects, well, I work for The Rabbit Room, so I do all things web-based for them, the website, the newsletter. We have a few Substacks. Housemoot, which is The Rabbit Room's digital sister conference to Hutchmoot, their in-person conference. There's a lot of mootish things around The Rabbit Room, which can really sound like inside baseball. Just go with it. So that's my day job. And as far as side projects go, I'm writing a progression science fiction role-playing game novel. Almost done with that. We can hit on that. Mm-hmm. The niche back corner of the internet and the life of serial publishing that has developed there around lit RPGs. Mm-hmm. So that's one thing. Another project is called The Darkling Psalter, which is a quest to rewrite the Psalms according to me, which just sounds like hubris when I say it, but it's more groovy and artistic than that.
Yes, it is. That's really good. And you are a podcaster.
Made some podcasts for The Rabbit Room, yep. And there's a podcast for The Darkling Psalter. In the past, I've done game design. That's kind of a previous, a hat I wore in a previous life that I carry forward into my current ventures from time to time.
So a lot of different kinds of things and a lot of things going on at once. So how did you get into writing, podcasting, substacking?
I'm not really sure. It was never a plan. I just sort of followed my nose. Mm-hmm. I tend to read a lot and listen to things fast. And so I fall into these esoteric interest rabbit holes. And that brings a lot of energy and generally too much energy. If you ask people in my life, like whatever the eye of Sauron falls on, it's like there's so much focus there, and everything has to do with Toyota or Substack or game design or Kickstarter or whatever. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really find that my passions follow my reading, and then they trail along behind me over the years. And I find myself in new circumstances, new roles, new communities. I can say, hey, here's this thing that I did a couple years ago. Let's bring that back in. Or disconnected, disparate interests and passions coalesce in some new idea. That's kind of what happened with this sci-fi novel. Interested in publishing, serial publishing, interested in science fiction and fantasy from just being a nerd from way back. Interested in figuring out how to write the process of writing, do it better and faster, and then just an interest in language and the word.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So reading widely and deeply. How many books do you read a year?
I have no idea.
Ballpark?
Rachel, I really have no idea. I couldn't tell you how many books I've read last month or really what the names are. I just kind of like fly through them. At some point, I started listening to audiobooks. It was during COVID. I worked for L'Abri Fellowship, and we couldn't have students because of COVID. For those who don't know, L'Abri Fellowship is a residential studies center that has 8 or 9 branches across the world. And so my family and I worked there for 7 years and hosted international students, people, pastors on sabbatical for up to 3 months at a time. So that was the rhythm of life there. And it's in this big 300-year-old manor in the English countryside that was woefully out of date with fire codes. So the pretty much the day we decided, oh, this COVID thing is happening.
Wow.
So we sent the students home and all became tradesmen, fireproofing this old manor for a year. And so I just would, work 8-hour days and alone doing woodworking or painting fireproof paint on doors, listening to audiobooks. And I thought, I'm listening at 1x. Why don't I kick that up to 1.2? And then 1.2 was the new 1. So I thought, let's kick that up. Let's try 1.8. And it's kind of like getting in a hot tub. Like it's hot at first, and then 5 minutes later, feels like, normal. So that started, I was really able to binge books a lot faster, and I kind of haven't gone down. I can push that speed multiplier up pretty fast these days.
Does your mind ever wander at that speed?
Yes. Yeah. It sort of freaks people out when I say I listen to books on 3.5x or something, but 3.5 is the new 1.
Wow.
It doesn't feel fast to me. So I'm listening, I'm kind of, letting my mind wander sometimes.
Does that work for fiction or only for like nonfiction?
It works for everything.
Okay.
But people are very different.
Yeah. I don't know that my auditory processing can take a 3-time speed, but
You could do it, Rachel. You just have to put the work in.
maybe.
It's like exercise. You build
Maybe
those
I
muscles.
just need a project that keeps my hands busy for 8 hours a day, painting or something, and give it a shot. Yeah, I have found that my book reading has gone up since listening while doing chores. Just anytime I have to do laundry or whatever. But then I get into my book and I'm looking for extra things to do. Like the laundry's done, the dishes are done. Maybe I should dust something. When I really have other things I should be doing.
It's good for the house.
It is. So let's talk about processes and productivity. What is your basic process look like?
That's such a broad question. I guess the foundation is an interest in process improvement as almost like a puzzle. But then also just I download productivity apps for fun. Like sometimes I'll just type productivity app and then download 15 of them and just play with them and think, oh, that's neat. Most of those don't stick, but some of them do. Yeah, so there's a general interest there in thinking about how something is being done. And then as the reading speed story illustrates, I'm inclined to think, okay, this is how this is being done. Here are some snags or some inefficiencies. How can we do this better, faster? What is the goal here? And how can we clear out the clutter in the way of accomplishing that goal?
So talk about slime mold.
Slime mold. Slime mold. Okay, yes, slime mold. There's a video on the internet. I forget the scientific name of this one yellow slime mold. It's Physarum something or other. And it has a kind of emergent intelligence, even though it has no brain. It has no eyes. So there's this 8-minute high-speed video that is completely stop motion of a petri dish. And I think it holds the secrets to human productivity by watching this slime mold. So it starts as a little dot in a petri dish. And there are, I think, 3 oat pellets scattered around. And you watch the slime mold grow and explore and build the most efficient pathways to find these oat pellets. It's very counterintuitive and it's very iterative. So it kind of grows out one direction, doesn't encounter the oat. So it sucks that bit of mold back in, grows out in another direction. It's just kind of shooting in the dark until it finds one. And then it makes a nutrient highway between the mold and the oat pellet, and then starts to iterate again from the nutrient node that it discovered. So what does all that have to do with productivity? We have a lot of ideas about what we want to get done, how we want to do it, and we can become very wedded to those ideas, even against the facts, and we think we can disregard that because either this is the way we've always done it, or this is the way my boss says I have to do it, or this was my idea and I'm really committed to it. I don't want to break it. I'm going to ignore any signs that it's not working. But the slime mold is not married to its ideas at all. So that's the thing that gets me about that. that there is a kind of iterative, exploratory adventurousness to having dreams and then making those dreams a reality. You know, the oat pellets are out there, but we don't know where they are. And there's a humility to it.
Yeah.
We don't know where they are. We actually don't know what's out there. Because if you think about the slime mold that has no eyes, from above, we know there are 3 oat pellets in this petri dish. It does not. But it just starts doing things. It starts iterating, not because it's smart, but because it has a certain approach to getting things done.
So you mentioned I've heard you talk about the Toyota way and lean process. So talk about that a little bit, and then maybe we can circle back around to how that has impacted your writing life.
Boy, this is the deep end here, Rachel. You're leading us out over the continental shelf. We were just looking for interns for the Rabbit Room, and a former intern applied again, and she said, "Hey, I read that Toyota Way book, and I fell asleep in the second chapter and just could not imagine ideas being conveyed more boringly and more obscurely than this." But for me, it's riveting. It just feels like, yes, they've figured something out. And
yeah.
Okay, so really zooming out, and I won't spend too much time on this. You can chase down whatever questions seem interesting. I think it was back in the 70s, 2 researchers from MIT started researching. They set out to make a global study of car companies and measuring them against every conceivable metric. And they basically discovered that everyone was pretty much doing the same, but there was one standout company that was head and shoulders above the rest on every metric, Toyota. So the study changed to what is going on in these Toyota factories. And over the year, they coined the term lean to describe the manufacturing philosophy that produced those changes. And they were trying to contrast with mass production, lean production versus mass production. Anyway, so these researchers coined the phrase lean and started publishing studies about the Toyota production system. And people in other industries started to send people to visit Toyota factories and learn from the Toyota gurus. And they found they take this Toyota production system outside of what happens in a car factory and plop it down in what happens in a hospital. And it started to produce the same results. You had to translate the words. So we're not like having to repaint a car. We are making a system of standards for what happens when a heart attack patient comes in. But you took these tools and these perspectives and plopped them down in another industry and got similar results as far as reducing waste, accomplishing one's goals more effectively. Okay, choose your own adventure from there. What do you want to explore?
Let's talk about your writing and exercise routine.
Okay.
Like how did you get to this?
Yes, my writing and exercise routine. For the listeners, Rachel, this is picking up previous conversations Rachel and I have had. Okay, so lean has gone so deep in my mind that it's kind of the rails my productivity thinking runs on. So I'm writing this sci-fi story. I have lots of jobs and projects and a marriage and 4 kids. And so it fits in on the edges. And I started to explore, I'd really like to finish this novel and launch it and self-publish it. I don't have a lot of time, so where can I find time on the margins and use it productively? And are there some counterintuitive things that, let's say I've got half an hour on a stair machine at the gym, what would it look like to use that time more effectively? Not that letting your mind wander while you exercise isn't effective. Right. I mean, that's we need to do that also. But I had a specific goal to finish this novel. So there's all these pockets in our world, in our lives, especially pockets that have been colonized by mindless doom-scrolling digital technology, that we can think through, is there something else I can do? Is there some way I can use this time to accomplish other goals that I have? Anyway, so that was some of my thinking about this this treadmill practice. So I write on Scrivener, which is a novel app you can buy.
An excellent app.
And
highly recommended.
yes, it's great. I swear by it. Get Scrivener on your smartphone, and you can link through a Dropbox folder that automatically updates both directions. So I thought, hey, that's a piece of it. That's a piece of the writing machine that I'm building. Then ChatGPT became a thing, and I discovered that it's actually really good at taking dictation. So all of these kind of came together on the Stare machine, and now my practice is basically whispering into the bottom of my smartphone these sci-fi battles, trying not to get noticed by anyone to my right or to my left. And I ChatGPT takes that dictation, does an amazing job getting all the words right. And you can tell it, just get my words verbatim, just take out the ums and ahs and fix the grammar. And it'll do that, copy that into a Scrivener file, and then that's there for me the next time I sit down at my computer for a writing session.
That's incredible.
So I can get like 3,000 words an hour just by doing this. It takes a little bit of preparation. That's hitting that high. I have to know the scene ahead of time, and I've got to have the beats thought through in my head. If I'm like creating from nothing a story, it takes a lot longer, just because that's a longer process.
Yeah. I wondered if your brain could actually work that fast to just create it as you're speaking it, or if it took some preparation. I'm a much slower writer than that, but I've never tried. Like, that seems like a scary thing to just dictate. Like, as you're just telling it, you're making it up as you go. You don't actually have anything that you can see to show for it.
Yeah, there is a bit of a switch you have to make mentally, but there's a lot of freedom too. Nobody's like, I can, ChatGPT is still recording and I'm just silent for a couple minutes thinking through what I want to say, and that silence won't be reflected in the transcript. I think it also matters if I'm really enjoying what I'm writing. If I'm bored with what I'm writing, it just slows down.
Yeah.
I don't want to sit down and write. I don't want to write the next paragraph. But if it's a thrilling scene, I'm just at the end of the novel, so every scene is pretty thrilling right now. I find I can just tell the story. It's like I would tell a story I'm making up to my kids. I'm just like making things up, and there's no pressure, and I'm having fun, and it all just kind of clicks together.
Yeah. I hadn't thought about it in terms of like telling a story to our kids. Do you do that with your kids, like at bedtime, where they demand like a fresh new story, something you're just making up on the spot?
Most of the time when I'm making up fresh stories these days, my oldest son has growing pains in the night, and they're kind of horrific. So he wakes me up, give him some medicine, and then lay down in bed. And that's our tradition for like, let's bring up this story. We have this story of a magical inventor named Mr. Poogan. So he wants the next installment in the life and times of Mr. Poogan. And it's 3 a.m., and it takes a while for me to remember, okay, we're on this ice planet or something. And many times I fall asleep, but I don't stop talking. And he just elbows me. He's like, Dad, that didn't make any sense.
Yeah. Our daughter had gotten into the habit of wanting something new at bedtime. And so I was struggling to come up with new ideas. So I made her give me a person, a place, and a thing, and I would weave a story around whatever she picked that night. And we've had some wild stories as a result.
That's great. And when it's just a kid, and you're just
there's no pressure.
You're just having fun. There's no pressure.
That's exactly right. Yeah, you're just playing. But it is good. Like, I hadn't thought about that as practice for writing, but I guess it is. I mean, it is creative without the pressure and the stress. Like, if you can get into that play zone, you're producing better creative work than if you feel like someone's looking over your shoulder the whole time.
Yeah, I think I came across that idea in, I think the book is called 5K to 10K, How to Write Faster, something like that. And she really emphasizes it's just got to be fun.
Oh, I like that.
If it's not fun, you're not going to want to do it. And it won't be fun for the reader.
Yeah. No, that's true. Let's talk about kind of the shifting forces in writing and publishing. You were the first one who put me on to serial publishing in the first place. And it's this whole world that I did not know existed in today's world. I mean, obviously back in Dickens' day, serial publishing was a thing, and it is now a new thing in the digital world. So maybe kind of give our listeners an idea of what this is, because they're probably not familiar with it. And then let's talk about kind of the trends that you see there.
Yeah, you're right that it's not new. It's ancient, and it's returned. Back in the day, so many of the books we call classics, and we read them as novels, these thick Dostoevsky and Tolstoy and Dickens, they were published serially in newspapers. And that's why they're so thick, because they
were rewarded for that word count.
paid by the thickness. That's right, yeah. And that's happening again. Obviously, the publishing industry moved on from newspapers. However, it's swinging back in a new form, driven by this digital revolution in publishing. It's still very niche, but it's becoming much more mainstream. So I got into it, once again, travel back with me into the thick of COVID. I'm painting fireproof paint on doors and binging stories. I just needed lots of stories. So I came across this book called Dungeon Crawler Carl by Matt Dinneman. And that was my first taste of a genre that I would fall in love with, lit RPGs, literary role-playing games. And when I say that, everybody's like, is it like a choose-your-own-adventure? It's not a choose-your-own-adventure. These are stories with game elements in them. And they kind of grew out of the Dungeons & Dragons world. Like, characters have quests and levels and items and all that stuff. Fairly new genre, like the classics probably go back to 2012. So it's pretty new, and it is growing like crazy, sparked by two platforms, Royal Road, royalroad.com. It's basically like web serial site. There's a lot of fan fiction on it, but it's like a lake densely populated with fish that just eat one kind of bait. And they just love these stories. So authors can go there and find alpha readers, rabid fans. And the culture is such that they want more fast. They are binge readers. They're listening at 3.5x probably. And they want long stories. And they want fantasy and sci-fi series that you could, like, if you stacked up the books, you could use them as a chair. And they will pay for them. They will pay for them now. They don't want to pay Amazon. They want to pay the author directly. So the second platform is Patreon. There's other platforms like these. So Patreon is a crowdfunding site for episodic content. So you've got these authors who just have an idea and they start dropping it for free on Royal Road, chapter by chapter. Things catch on, go viral. And so they either pay just to support the story, pay just to support the author, or they pay to read 15, 20, 100 chapters ahead. So that's a snapshot of some of the infrastructural publishing forces that are putting power into the hands of the reader and allowing the reader to vote with their wallets directly for the kind of stories that they want to hear. And the top 10 lit RPG writers are all millionaires just from Patreon alone. And really exciting things are happening. Like I followed Matt Dinneman, the author of Dungeon Crawler Carl, on Patreon for a while. So in the story, I'm going to nerd out for a little bit. You could just fast forward if this isn't your cup of tea. But the story is basically this guy, Carl, gets caught in sort of like Survivor. Aliens turn the world into a game of Survivor underground, and he's got to fight monsters for survival. So the aliens are all watching this on their version of TV. So there's this really fun meta-level story interaction that Matt let the Patreons engage in. We became the fans in the story. So that the fictional fans are these aliens. In real life, the fans choosing what gift Carl gets is the actual fans of the story. So it lets you do all these creative things. And people throw out plot ideas, point out inconsistencies, correct their grammar for the author for free, because it feels like I'm a part of this story. And it's a rush. It's heady. It's heady for the authors. It's heady for the community. And then it is so hard to get anyone to care about your creative work unless they experience it, unless they fall in love with it. So the world of serialized fiction is letting people fall in love with it from literally the first chapter, the moment the first chapter is written.
Yeah. The first time I heard about this, I thought, this is crazy. Like, this is so against the way we think about the creative process of, writing and editing and polishing and, then getting feedback. To have feedback that early in the process to help shape the process is like, the longer that I've been exposed to the idea, I really like the idea and I see the benefits of it. But it took a little bit to kind of come around to, this is a better way. It's
scary.
It is.
It's
it is
vulnerable.
Scary. It is very vulnerable. I wonder if there are authors who struggle with that. If they have like early success and then can't finish it because they feel like this overwhelming pressure to perform. Like, now they have a following, and then it just gets harder and harder to.
Yeah, that's the flip side of the sticking with this niche. That is the niche that I know most about, of the ravenous hunger in your reader that you've got to keep feeding the beast. And sometimes life happens and you just can't do that. And there's plenty of stories about that, either series that aren't finished or go on hiatus but I think it's okay. Like, that's going to happen anyway out there in the world. And I think doing it in public and allowing people to say, hey, I can't stop thinking about that story. When are you going to finish that? There's vulnerability in that, but there's also a lot of safety in that, because we can be our own worst critics, and we can also delude ourselves about how good something is. So to have somebody say like, hey, this moment didn't work, can be hard. But I think we can develop inner resilience and almost like a carefree play attitude to say, okay, that's fine. I thought it was great. I'm going to factor that in. And 3 months later, you're like, you're right, that didn't work. You really saved me some time. Or you can say, sounds like you're not my reader. And you can't be all things to all people. You don't have to write for everybody, because not everybody's going to like your stuff. Yeah. But in this very connected, very niche world we live in, you'll find some people who love your stuff. And just write for them. And position yourself in such a way that you allow them to tell you they're your people. Yeah. Whether that's on Substack. So for this sci-fi story called The Ill-Starred Night, I started a Substack just for a couple friends, because I wanted to try writing in public. And I knew I wasn't going to bring it to Royal Road and Patreon until it was all finished. But I wanted to get people's opinions in the midst of it. Yours is foremost among those. Every time I post a chapter, I always see this little Rachel Donahue heart
waiting for it
pop up. That's right. Yeah.
I mean, seriously, it became my dessert reading. Like, I would see it pop up on Substack. I'm like, oh, okay, well, I have to finish my tasks for the day, and then I get to read the next installment. It's fun.
And that means so much to me as an author. Yeah. You don't need tons of people to hear that from, but through this, there's probably 55 people that subscribe to this Substack. 90% of them don't ever read it. And there's maybe 6 people who I know will read it right away. And I'm just writing for those people and myself. I'm having fun, and I get to open the doors of the story. And it's just fun. It's so much more meaningful than if I was just sitting here at my desk having these dreams and making myself laugh, and then later on convincing myself, oh, that was stupid. That was such a dumb idea. Nobody's going to like this. Yeah,
it's so easy for that self-doubt to creep in and second guess, like, is this even worth my time? So I'm glad you are continuing to write, and I'm looking forward to the end. And for the record, I think it's better than Dungeon Crawler Carl. So
thank you.
There you have it.
Matt Dinneman, she's just joking. Don't be hurt.
No. I think it's better, hands down.
I'm 42, and I've had so many ideas that I've been excited about that have just gone totally nowhere. And I spend years doing it, and then the work starts of like, oh, I have to convince people to like this. They can't just plug into my passion and download it as their own. And I've done that enough times that I just don't want to do it anymore. I want to be able to see the finish line from the start. There's another project I'm working on called the Darkling Psalter, which is creative renditions of the Psalms. And it's basically written for the Rabbit Room community. These very creative, faithful people who love the Bible and love to be inspired and who love to really contact meaningful work at a deep level. You know, they love the Inklings. They love Every Moment Holy. So those are kind of my people. So when I think about the Darkling Psalter, it's really written for those people. And it takes the guesswork out. Like, it takes the shot in the dark work out of, I'm just going to run with this idea. I don't know who's going to read it. I don't know who's going to publish it. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. I want to cross the bridge immediately.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's a lot of things to think about. Kind of our processes, how we go about creative work.
Yeah, how is yours different from that?
That's a good question. So I've been working on like a novel manuscript for 8-9 years now. It was 5 years in the first draft, just because I didn't know what I was doing and I was learning as I went. But then at Hutchmoot, when we were talking about this and you said, hey, can I read this? It was a terrifying moment because I'm like, it's not ready. It's not ready. It has holes in it. I know where the holes are. But then the trust to say, okay, I'm willing to hand this to you with all of the messes in it. Like, I know this is not finished. And then to have feedback and say, oh, these are some ways you can shape it. This is where it's not working. This is what's really good. Just gave me a lot of confidence to say, you know what, I do need to dig back into this and finish it.
Yeah.
And so I dove back in and I've been shaping it. And I'm also in a writer's group that meets once a month. We've started meeting again. And so I'll take my chapters, my newly reworked chapters, and read them to them and say, okay, you guys haven't heard the story yet, or you heard a really early version. How does this strike you now? And it has made the work so much better. And I'm excited about releasing it serially, hopefully starting in the summer. We'll see if I can I'd like to have at least the whole first part of the book finished and polished so that I can be consistent with the release of chapters and then hopefully keep working ahead of that.
That's great.
But yeah, so like all of these conversations, I mean, there's a whole new platform that exists now that did not exist 6 months ago. So Flickr.press, and Bandersnatch has partnered with Flickr Press. So for all of our listeners who have not seen the announcements, and this is the first you're hearing of it, you can go to Flickr.press and find a number of our Bandersnatch books, our fiction titles that are already up in full on the site, and you can buy credits and spend your credits to read them chapter by chapter. And by doing that, you are supporting the authors. It will cost roughly the same price as an ebook, but it's also a place you can discover other authors who are putting brand new manuscripts out into the world. Some of them are works in progress because the author is looking for feedback. Some of them are polished works, maybe something that somebody dug out of a drawer that's just been sitting for a really long time. And it's taking off and people are sharing their work and it's so exciting.
The thing I love about Flickr Press is authors will really get to see how people are interacting.
Yes.
Immediately.
Yeah.
So going back to where we started this conversation, the slime mold.
Yes.
A lean framework. Really, traditional book writing is mass production. I will produce all of these words, and then I will ship it out to the quote-unquote customer. You know, that's like the slime mold being like, I think that oat pellet's over there. I'm just going to use all my available energy straight in that direction, never going to change. But the serial production system has the possibility to be more lean in that it can be more responsive to feedback faster. So the feedback cycle can shorten from 5 years to 5 minutes. You press post and you get to see people interacting live. They drop off after chapter 5. Okay, what happens at chapter 5? Yeah.
Yeah. It has been incredible to just see those iterations happening already. And the fact that it lowers the threshold of entry for a work. Instead of having to buy the whole thing as an ebook or on Amazon, you can just spend a credit for the next chapter. You know, your first chapter or first few chapters are free. and then you unlock a chapter at a time. And if you hit a point where you're not into it anymore, you can stop reading and read something else. And that's feedback for the author. And also it just lets you try new things as a reader. I mean, there are so many readers who are hungry for the next thing, just another good read, and they don't know where to go to find those stories that they're looking for. So yeah, it's exciting to see all these ideas coming together and these new iterations, like this new way of going about creative work that may still end up in people having works published in book form. Something takes off. Yep. It's not that it removes that from a possibility, but there are more stories being written than publishers can possibly publish.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's right. If Matt Dinneman had taken the idea for Dungeon Crawler Carl about this kind of jockey main character who teams up with a sentient cat that shoots magic missiles from her eyes, named Princess Donut.
Yeah.
Probably, unless he found a really niche publisher, that would have been a tough sell.
Yeah.
But he got to go straight to the people who like it.
Yeah.
And then in about 8 to 10 years later, in 2024, Penguin picked up the series and gave it a new cover and put it everywhere.
Yeah.
Books are sold.
Like a whole bookshelf in Barnes & Noble of nothing but the books from this series.
Dungeon Crawler Carl. Yeah, and it's starting to happen with other lit RPG, the best of the best as well. So traditional publishers are looking back at this new petri dish that's incubating this whole new way of making books and making readers, and they're saying they get to cherry pick things that have already been tried and tested. And take them into the mass market. So it's not going to replace, the new way isn't going to replace the old. It's going to happen on top of the old. And I think both readers and writers will win.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah.
All right. So to wrap up our conversation, I have some popcorn questions.
Okay.
And these are just off the top of your head, quick answer, and no wrong answers. So if you could be a slime mold, what color would you be?
I don't know. I tend to lean into the Sith aesthetic, so I'd probably be lightsaber red.
All right. Good answer. What did you most enjoy reading last year?
Oh, this is that same question you asked before, and my mind just goes blank.
Maybe last month. I don't know how many books you're reading a month. Maybe you go back a month.
Okay. I've got one.
Okay.
There's definitely a content warning on this one. I'm a big Stephen King fan, and I read King Sorrow by his son Joe Hill, and loved it. It's basically some kids make a Faustian bargain with a dragon, and in order to accomplish something to beat the bad guys, and they realize, as with all Faustian bargains, they get much more than they bargained for.
Wow!
And it just feels so Stephen King, and even characters and settings from the Stephen King verse are referenced in King Sorrow, so it does feel like an extension of this world that I love.
If you could go on vacation to any bookish place, where would you go?
Oh, I'd go back to England. It's just the beauty of the natural and made landscape in England. We just don't really have that here. We have a lot of American wildness that has its own kind of sublime beauty. But the tame Hobbit Shire-ish wildness and tameness altogether, it's tough to beat.
Yeah. And do you have a favorite word?
Favorite word? Lately I've been liking the name of our book club, Palabronauts.
It's a good word.
Palabronauts. I put it on the Rabbit Room calendar to block off the time, and my colleague sent me a Slack message saying, "What is Palabronauts?" And I just said, "Space Riders."
Yeah.
And she was like, "What?" And I just let it be. Space Riders.
Space Riders. All right. Andy, thank you so much for joining us on the Vanderpod. It has been a delight.
It's been fun. Thanks.
Listeners, I hope you've gotten a lot out of our conversation today. Just remember, in the middle of all your productivity, to wander off the beaten path from time to time and keep an eye out for those bookish treasures. Flickr.press is a brand new serialized digital publishing platform where truth, beauty, and goodness can thrive. Readers looking for their next good read can find authors who write with honesty, excellence, and imagination. Stories are labeled with content warnings, so readers know what to expect up front, and no explicit or gratuitous content is allowed. Read the first chapters of any title for free, and unlock new chapters by spending credits to support the authors whose works you love. Join the movement and try Flickr.press today. Thanks for listening in to our conversation today on the Banderpod. We hope you'll check out our full catalog at bandersnatchbooks.com. The Banderpod is produced by Rachel S. Donahue, A.B. Donahue, and Carolyn Claire Givens. Audio engineering by S.D.G. Morgan. Artwork by Evelyn Warnamundi. Many thanks to our friend Chris Slayton of Son of Laughter for our theme song, Cricket in a Jar. Find links and more in the show notes.